Hi, it's Ellie with the Radiant Form. Thank you for joining me today. Today we're going to do a pretty relaxed, slow, centering flow that will kind of just let our bodies um, release any tension. And I encourage you to do whatever modifications necessary to make your body feel really good and to really listen deeply to whatever your body's asking of you today. That said, we are going to work with the intention today of finding our calm center. My calm center is always with me, always available. I find my calm center today. And with that, we will start in a kneeling position today. We're not going to be doing too much muscular movement, but we'll get our blood flowing a little bit. So connecting with our breath in any kneeling pose that feels good. We're not going to stay here for very long. So begin to feel your breath moving in and out. Feel it come in through the nose. Become aware of how it feels for your breath to travel into your lungs. Feel your belly expand. And as you do that, feel your connection to the mat, to the earth, the ground, all the points of contact. Begin to be really aware of your body. Maybe getting a little constriction in the back of the throat, moving into that Ujjayi breath. Energizing, even as we seek to release tension, energizing ourselves in order to release. Bring the hands to heart center. See if you can feel your heart beating for you. And as you do this, begin to pull your lower belly in just a little bit. Subtly energizing through the legs, spinning the inner thighs very gently down, rising up just a little bit so we take some pressure off of the ankles and knees. Slightly rolling the shoulders back, shoulder blades down the back body. Head over heart, heart over pelvis. Straight line of energy. And on your next inhale, go ahead, stand up onto the knees, raising the arms up into our upward kneeling salute. Exhaling back down to a seat. I'll do that twice more. Inhaling up. Exhaling, releasing back down. Inhaling, feeling the legs waking up, opening up through the chest and arms, and exhaling, drawing it all back into center. Next inhale, rising up, and we'll exhale into our child's pose. This time, knees together, hands can be out in front of you or back by your sides. Allow your forehead to make contact with the earth or maybe with a block. Feel the compression here of your belly against the legs. Notice the sensation of breathing deeply into the lungs, expanding the belly even as it's pressed against the legs. Feel length through the side body, through the arms. Imagine stretching out through the lower back, pulling those muscles ever so gently, massaging them open. Inhaling up into our tabletop, and we'll tuck the toes and exhale into a really gentle downward dog, knees bent, Arms shoulder width or wider. Feet hip socket distance or wider. Maybe walk them as wide as your mat. You could even grab the edges of your mat for a really deep release here. Deep inhale and exhaling, dropping the knees back into our tabletop. And we'll do a few rounds of cat and cow here. So spinning those elbows forward, really pressing into the thumb and first finger strongly. On the inhale, we'll drop our belly, bringing the chest forward. Chin and tailbone up, and exhale, draw through the lower belly, tucking the pelvis, letting the head dangle. 2 more just like that. Inhaling, chest forward, and exhaling, rounding through the upper back. Inhaling, drawing the heart forward, widening through the collarbones, lifting up the tailbone, and exhaling, drawing that tailbone under, really pressing through the shoulder blades. Inhale back to a neutral spine, and we're just going to kind of rock side to side here, squeezing the right shoulder and the right hip, feeling a long stretch through the left side body. Inhaling back to center and exhaling, squeezing the other way. Waking up the core, keeping that lower belly drawing in slightly, but really feeling a nice stretch through the side body here. 1 more time on each side. Exhaling to squeeze. And to the other side. Moving with the breath, moving gently, and then releasing back into our child's pose. Still with that compression, knees together. Where are you needing to open up today? How can we find our calm center? Where's our equilibrium? Deep inhale and exhale, and on the next inhale we'll rise up into that kneeling upward salute. Slight back bend here, opening up the chest and exhaling down into our kneeling prayer. You can keep the eyes closed through this whole sequence if you like. We're going to go through that 1 more time, a little bit quicker, with just always moving a little bit deeper inside. So on the inhale, rising up onto the knees, and exhaling into our child's pose. Inhaling up into tabletop, and exhaling into a big bent knee downward dog, keeping that spine super straight. This time, as we come back into tabletop, we'll bring that right leg in between the hands into a gentle low lunge. Dropping the head for a second. Hands can stay on the earth or come up to the knee. Bowing to your center and then rising up briefly. And exhaling the hands back down to the earth into our tabletop position. And on the inhale, drawing the left leg forward. Really moving slowly and with intention here. Maybe dropping the head for a second. And then rising up, hands to the knee. Gently drawing that left hip back, right hip forward. And rising up with the arms. A deep inhale, and on the exhale, moving the hands down. Back into our tabletop and child's pose. This time you can have your knees together, still breathing with that compression, or have them wide apart. Whatever feels best to your low back today. best to your arms, best to your breath. Inhaling, we'll rise up into our tabletop for just a second, doing one more brief round of cat and cow. Exhaling, pressing through the upper back, dropping those hips. Inhaling, bringing the heart forward, wide collarbones, chin and tailbone up. Exhale, really drawing firmly into the lower belly and rounding. Inhale and exhale, moving back into child's pose. This time, from our child's pose, we're going to keep stretching out that side body. So we're going to walk our hands over to the right, keeping the legs just as they are. And stop wherever you begin to feel a really deep stretch in the left side body. And you can place the left hand on top of the right. Maybe even kicking your hips out to the left just a little bit. Noticing where you feel the stretch most deeply. Is it through the left side of the glute? Is it through the waist? Is it up into the armpit? The arm, maybe it's the entire arc of your left side body. Breathe deeply into it, as though your breath could actually move to those muscles and open and soften them. On your next inhale, walk the hands back towards center. Really clawing through those fingertips and stretching out. Making micro adjustments so that your body softens into the best stretch for you. Inhaling and then exhaling, we'll walk our hands over to the left side now, pausing when you begin to feel that deep stretch. Maybe kicking the hips out to the right just a little bit. How is this side for you? Tighter, looser, more resistant, more open? Walk your attention up and down the whole length of the side body as you stretch it. Feel yourself soften and open up as you find that calm center. Release any extra tension in the face, in the forehead, in the tongue and jaw. We are really here to release and let go. Inhaling back into center. This time in our child's pose, we'll walk the knees nice and wide and the big toes together. And then I invite you to bring your palms together into prayer pose and then bend your elbows, bringing those hands right behind the head or the neck, getting a little bit of a tricep stretch here. You can even walk your elbows forward just a little bit to get a bigger stretch if that feels good. Imagine your heart sinking into the earth. Where can you soften and release tension to accommodate your open heart, your calm center, your soft, open belly? I like to challenge myself to stay for an extra breath after I feel like I'm done and see if anything else changes. Am I able to notice a spot of tension in the back of my neck, for instance, that I didn't notice before? It is hard to be still. Inhaling, release the arms, deep exhale. and rise back up into our tabletop position. We're going to come into a modified side plank here just to keep opening and get a little bit of blood moving again. So really pressing down firmly through the left hand. We'll extend the right leg out to the side, spinning open, opening up through the hips and stretching that right arm up to the ceiling. Wide collarbones. Press firmly into the thumb and forefinger of that bottom hand. Maybe gently squeezing the shoulder blades together. Feel that right foot pressing into the mat and open up. I'm really drawing this left hip underneath me, firming up through the right leg. Maybe back bend for a minute, just open up to the sky, and then circling back down on an exhale. Getting situated again in your tabletop, and we'll move to the other side. Really pressing down through that right hand, letting that energy come all the way up into my right shoulder, and then opening up through the left leg, straightening it out and pressing it into the earth. I'm going to open up my arm, blossoming out. Letting there be a strong line of energy from the back foot all the way up to the crown of the head. Pulling my right hip underneath me and pressing my hips forward. Opening up, slight back bend here. I find my calm center. Deep inhale and exhale it back into our tabletop pose. We're going to come into hero pose now, which is really just kneeling between the legs. If this is not open for you, you might sit on a block. So we want our toes pointing directly back behind us and our knees straight forward. We don't want our knees to go any wider than our hips. We're going to sit here for a minute and we're going to notice any subtle changes going on in our body, really focusing on that strong, straight staff of our spine here. Hands on the knees or dangling. Wide collarbones, shoulders rolling back. Lengthening up on the inhale. Exhale. Softening while keeping that length. Now just for a minute, see if you can bring your fists together behind the back, or maybe just grab the elbows or the forearms. As we sit here, let's draw back in through those lower ribs so they're not popping out here. Maybe that means we're just, our fists are way down on our sacrum. Rolling the shoulder blades back, the shoulder heads back and open, nice and open and wide through the collarbones. Spiraling down through the inner thighs to keep some weight off. Listen deeply. Gentle tuck of the chin. Releasing the hands with a gentle shake. Maybe roll the shoulders back once or twice, depending on how tight your shoulders are. That will either feel like nothing at all or like a pretty big opening. I'm going to place my hands behind me, just leaning back so my fingertips are facing my toes. Really rolling back again through the shoulders and squeezing my shoulder blades together, lifting my chest up to the sky and maybe lifting up off that block or off the ground, pressing my hips up to the sky into a modified camel pose. Feel free to let the head roll all the way back if that feels okay on your neck. And exhaling, come back into seated pose. Drawing the arms up and exhaling them back to heart center. We'll do that twice more. Placing the hands down on the ground, fingertips facing the toes. Roll the shoulders back and lift up, pressing the thighs forward, pressing the hips up, really strong through the hamstrings. Inhale and exhaling, release back down. Inhaling, circle the arms up. And exhale back to heart center. Even with a gentle back bend, tune in to how your heart is beating now. Often, any kind of a back bend will get our heart moving a little bit, our blood pumping. So feel joyful in that. I find my calm center. We'll move the block out of the way and come back into our tabletop. Prepare for a nice down dog. Pretty brief one, but we'll still keep our knees bent pretty much. Obviously, always bend your knees as much as you need to. But today we're really focusing more on making space for whatever we need, as opposed to working muscularly into a shape. And then lifting the right leg up into our three-legged dog. Not for too long. Give that ankle a few nice rotations one direction, and then in the other direction. And then we'll draw it forward, knee to chest, coming into our pigeon pose. So here, you can have your shin parallel with the front of the mat or not. If it doesn't get there, don't put it there. We want your knee to be safe. What we really want to make sure is that our hip is not rolling off to the side. We want to try to keep our hips nice and even here. So if you find your hip rolling off and you don't want to use the muscular energy to lift it up, just pat it up with a blanket or a block. And again, when we use our props to support us, our muscles are able to relax more completely and deeply. And then we actually gain more flexibility more quickly because our muscles aren't fighting us and they're not sort of scared. Sometimes we work against our nervous system. So as we here in the pigeon, we're going to stay for a few minutes today. So this is not a very active one. So get yourself situated. I like to use my back toes to walk my leg back until it feels really comfortable. And then find a place where you're feeling a stretch, but it's not painful. So we really work with that difference between discomfort and pain. So we never want to get to a place of pain, but if we're a little bit uncomfortable and we feel like it's still safe, that's kind of where we want to be. Never ever causing ourselves pain on purpose. Although sometimes we're pretty good at that. So today I invite you to just tune in and think about that difference between discomfort and pain. Now, if as you breathe deeply here, you find a lot of sensation and it's getting really difficult, maybe try breathing out through the mouth. That can release some tension. And then see where you can release. Release through the back leg, release through that left hip flexor. We're getting a huge stretch through almost all the muscles in this right hip. There's so many amazing muscles that work together. Feel free to make adjustments as we hang out here. And if it feels okay, you can come down to your elbows into our sleeping pigeon. Maybe even grabbing a block to rest the head. And take a breath or two to really release through the neck muscles. Notice how often they're working for us without even us being aware of them. The neck, the muscles of the spine, they all hold us up all day. deeply releasing here. And again, we're sort of letting ourselves notice how when we stay in a pose past our point of comfort, how maybe something else arises for us. Sometimes I feel like I'm sinking through different layers of my body. And the longer I stay in a pose, the deeper I go, the more layers kind of open up for me. For the last few breaths, if you want to get a nice deep quad stretch, you can take your left arm parallel with the front of the mat and maybe twist open, maybe reaching for that back foot. This will increase the stretch in the right hip, and if you draw it in, you'll be able to find a nice deep quad stretch through your back leg as well. But again, I'm trying really hard not to create muscular tension in my neck, in my pectoral muscles, the chest muscles, underneath my collarbones, my left shoulder. Stay soft and easy and open. And if you start to panic a little bit, that's kind of a natural reaction to a deep hip stretch. Back off and see if you can stay with it. What arises for you here? Inhaling, release that leg, coming back forward. Rise up onto the hands. Remove the blanket if you've got it. And now we are going to roll onto that right hip and just draw our legs in front of us to our seated staff pose. This, again, is one of my very favorite deceptively hard poses. So I'm going to scooch my glutes out of the way so I can feel my sits bones on the mat. And here, just for a brief couple of breaths, I am going to really activate my quads, activate all my leg muscles by firmly flexing my feet, spreading my toes, sitting up really nice and straight and strong. Deeply drawing into the lower belly, transverse abdominals, pulling up on the pelvic floor, rising up through my whole spine, imagining it kind of, sometimes it's fun to imagine like a column of sparkles rising up as you activate one vertebrae at a time. Or maybe you don't like that kind of visualization. That's fine. As I rise up, I also release my shoulders, let them draw down. Oppositional forces here. One more deep breath in this pose. Inhaling, lengthening, and exhaling, softening. And then we'll lift our arms up on the next inhale and exhaling into a seated forward fold. Reaching for whatever is available to you. Really soften here. Work on moving our chest toward our feet, keeping that spine pretty straight. But we're not really tense here today. We want to keep all of our joints safe. We're also kind of being a little bit loose with it. Maybe releasing the head for the last couple of breaths. Gently spinning those inner thighs down and staying with all the sensations. Rising up in your inhale. We'll place the hands behind us, fingertips pointing to your glutes again, and draw the knees in, bent to about a 90-degree angle. Roll the shoulders back, and we'll lift up into our reverse tabletop. Lifting up, pressing firmly through the heels. We're just opening up here for a second. And exhaling, lowering back down. We'll cross our legs and roll forward back into our downward dog. pedaling at the feet. Pay close attention to how the right leg feels as opposed to the left leg. Finding stillness for a breath, and then inhaling, we'll lift that left leg up and exhale it forward, drawing the knee into the chest and finding our pigeon pose on the left side. Again, using the toes to walk that right leg back. We want the toes pointing straight back behind us, patting up your left hip if you need to keep your hips nice and even. You might even walk the left foot forward and back, seeing where you get the best feeling stretch. Remember, just because you can get to a place doesn't mean that's the best place for your body. Where are you needing the most release today to find your calm center? Staying here for a few minutes again. Let your body release into this pose gradually. So we don't have to get anywhere in particular. We're just kind of taking it as it comes. Living in your own body. Make any micro adjustments you need to. If your eyes are closed, listen deeply inside. If they're open, let your gaze be really soft. And even as we're aware of our whole body, all of our surroundings, inside that wide awareness, we let our attention be more specific. So draw your attention to that left hip. Which muscles are feeling the most release right now? Breathing deeply into them. Maybe coming forward onto the forearms, releasing the head onto a block or the ground. Exhaling and release. Soften through the skin of the face, soften through the throat, the tongue. Let your jaw be soft, back of the neck. Shoulders, sometimes turning the palms up is a gesture of softening. Remind your body that you are safe. It is safe to release. Deep breathing. Let your exhales be at least as long as your inhales. Remember, feel free to exhale through the mouth if the sensation grows really, really intense. And inside that calm center that we're cultivating, finding, growing, allow whatever feelings you're having to arise. All feelings are welcome. For the last few breaths, if you wish, I want you to draw that right arm parallel with the front mat, the front edge of your mat, opening up into a gentle twist here toward that leg, noticing any deepening sensation, and maybe reaching for that back leg. Finding a nice quadricep stretch through the right leg, even as you intensify the hip stretch to the left, and be aware. Well, I was tensing up through my shoulder, so let it soften away from the ear. taking whatever movement you need in your neck to just let it release. This right shoulder has such a strong tendency to tense up for me, so I find myself having to kind of remind it over and over again. Working on gentleness as we remind our bodies to soften. One more nice deep breath here. And exhaling, release. Inhaling, walking back up onto the hands. And again, we'll just roll onto that left hip. Coming into our seated staff pose just for a second here. One breath. Deep inhale, opening up. And exhaling forward into our forward fold. Hinging from the hips as we fold forward. Maybe see what is the shallowest you can get into the pose and still feel a sensation. That's an interesting challenge. Where is the very first place in this forward fold as I move just incrementally, slowly forward? Where do I first feel a sensation? And then pause. And then just for a couple breaths, we'll round forward, letting the legs kind of relax and flop. Inhale, exhale, side out through the mouth, and rolling up vertebrae by vertebrae. We'll come into one more reverse tabletop to open up through that chest. So bent knees, pressing through the heels, rolling the shoulders back and lifting up. I find my calm center. Exhaling. We'll roll forward into one more down dog. Rising up, feet and hands as wide as you like right now. And exhaling onto the knees. We'll just come to a seated position here, cross-legged or otherwise. I'm going to sit up on my blanket, on my towel. Let's roll the head from side to side here. Nice deep inhales and exhales, moving with the breath. And then inhale, we'll pause, right ear to right shoulder. Maybe drawing that left hand down, tenting the fingers. Letting this whole side of the neck and arm just elongate, just release and soften. Inhaling back up to center and exhaling left ear to left shoulder, maybe bringing that right hand down, tenting the fingers. Inhaling, exhaling, letting it soften as much as it might. It might not soften very much, and that is okay. Inhaling the head back to center. We'll just do a couple seated cat-cows. So with the hands on the knees, drawing our chest forward, lifting the chin, and exhaling, rounding the back, pulling against the knees, inhaling forward, and exhaling back. Gentle, soft movement. One more here. Inhaling forward, and exhaling, rounding the spine. We'll take our feet nice and wide as feels comfortable. They can actually be fairly narrow. It really doesn't matter. But we're going to get a nice inner thigh stretch here. So same thing, just rolling forward, hinging at the hips. Let your body come forward a little bit. Keeping the spine straight, but really not worrying about getting deep. We're just moving slowly and softly. You're welcome to keep the legs really active here and point those toes directly up to the sky, the ceiling, or just kind of soften a little bit. We do want our knees and our toes to be pointing mostly up, But as long as they're pointing the same direction, your joints are pretty safe. We'll take a couple more breaths here. One more inhale and exhale, and then pressing up to seated with our hands. We'll just take a side stretch, keeping our legs just as they are. Left hand down on the ground, inhaling that right arm up, and just leaning to the side, feeling our side body open. No pressure though. Feeling free to rotate the torso if that feels good. Let the arm be straight and strong or curved a little bit. One more deep inhale. Exhaling, softening. And then inhale, rise back up. Exhale, roll the shoulders back and soften into the seated pose. Inhale, left arm up. And exhale over to the side. Diving over, pulling in gently through the belly so that we're not dumping any unnecessary pressure into the lower back. And feeling this nice deep side stretch. Inhaling, exhaling for the count of 4 or so. Nice long inhales and long exhales. Keep them fairly even. The longer our exhale, the more signal goes to relax to our nervous system. One more deep inhale and exhale here. And on your inhale, rise up. We will take a little butterfly pose here. So drawing the soles of the feet together, you can draw them really firmly in toward the groin if that feels good. Pull them to a place that feels comfortable for you. We are working within our limits here, allowing ourselves to find our center. Sometimes I think of a pendulum rocking until we find that stable place right at the center. So holding on to the feet or the ankles, draw up through the spine on the inhale and fold forward on the exhale, keeping the spine straight. You might not go very far today, but that is fine. You might come all the way down. You are the best expert on your body, and I encourage you to really honor that. As you exhale, let those inner thighs soften and release away from the body. One more inhale, exhaling, softening. And on your next inhale, pressing up to seated. We will keep your right foot in toward that left inner leg and extend the left leg out. And we'll just stretch out to our head to knee pose, which is really chest to thigh pose. Getting a little bit deeper stretch through the inner thigh. Just staying for one more breath here. And then rising up. And we'll switch sides. Bringing that left foot to our right inner thigh. Turning to face those right toes. And lean out. Aha. This inner thigh is nice and tight for me today. So wherever you are, enjoy the sensation, enjoy the stretch. And be where you are. Just a couple more breaths. It is safe to release because I'm in my calm center. Deep inhale and letting everything go, and exhale and rising up to center. We will come down onto our backs just for some gentle twisting. So are the knees bent or straight? No, we're going to have them bent. I think we'll just do a few windshield wipers today, actually. So maybe cactusing the arms, maybe having them down by the sides. Notice whatever feels good for your chest and your arms today. I will just move our legs side to side. I do like to keep my lower belly pulled in while I do this. Feel that sensation, that massage on the lower back, on the glutes. And then draw the knees into the chest. We'll come into happy baby pose, holding on the outsides or insides of the feet or the calves, backs of the thighs, bending the knees in toward the armpits, and really trying to extend the spine, keeping the whole spine on the ground. Feel free to extend one leg at a time, rock side to side, as we prepare here for our final resting pose. Take any other movements that you need. Maybe giving the knees one more tight squeeze, feeling that compression. Deep breath out. We'll slowly lower the feet to the mat. And then getting ourselves ready for Shavasana. Extending the spine. Arms by the sides. Palms up. Feet flop open. Take a few deep breaths as we prepare here. And just really walk through the body. Notice any openness that you've created. Where do you feel that energy? Do you feel your heart beating? Allow yourself to feel soft and heavy and filled with that deep sense of release. Softening through the skin of the face here. Soften through the tongue and the jaw. Letting the head grow really heavy. The shoulders growing heavy. Let that heaviness travel through the hands, the arms, sinking into your Shavasana. Final resting pose. Let your legs be heavy and the toes. Drawing the breath gently in and out. Following it, letting it be natural. And here, as you prepare to let your body assimilate all of the opening work that you've done, just allow whatever thoughts arise to come up and then let them go. Inside my calm center, whatever arises is okay. resting here. Begin to bring some awareness back into the body. Slowly breathing more deeply. Maybe stretching out through the fingers and toes. Circling the wrists and ankles. Stretching overhead. Slowly make your way onto one side. Pausing for a moment to express gratitude toward yourself for spending this time today, finding your palm center. Press gently up to seated. Coming into whatever seated position feels comfortable. Taking a few breaths. Envisioning how we will carry this centered feeling with us into the rest of our day. Allowing whatever comes to arise and not knock us off our balance. And drawing the hands to heart center, feel your heart beating. Feel your core, feel your heart. Your powerful center. Today, may you know deeply that you are loved and loving, and may you be radiant. Thank you so much for joining me today. Namaste.